It's snazzy, right? I
Very,
like it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, so guys, welcome to the first ever podcast hosted by yours truly. I'm known by a lot of things here on the internet, whether it be Helljumper 501st, Invaders ODST, or for the War of Rights and line battling community, simply as LaBelle. So welcome. Glad to have everybody here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, listening up on podcast. If listening, if you're on Spotify. Yeah. So let's get right into it. I have two guests here. My first ever guests. One of them is, you can kind of consider him my Jamie, my go-to guy, my Mr. Number Two, Van Kosky. Van Kosky, thanks for coming.
Hey, what's up?
And my second guest today, my first very special guest, my first non-repeating guest, I should say. Although if he wants to come back, he certainly can. You guys know him as Red. He is one of the leaders of Ninth Corps in the War of Rights line battling community. Welcome, Red.
Glad to be here. Hello.
Excellent day. Now, Red, you have your own podcast, and I know that
do.
I shamelessly plugged this one on this week's episode of your podcast. So why don't you go ahead and tell people what your podcast is all about real quick?
My podcast is called The Podcast, and it's generally just a place to it's really just shooting the shit, generally just talking about whatever comes to mind for that week. It's just a very chill, very kind of hangout kind of podcast, something you listen to if you feel very lonely and you want to feel like you have friends. So I mean, yeah, it's really it. We just talk shit. It's really just a bunch of homies hanging out. That's really it.
That's
It's
awesome.
also on Spotify. So yeah.
I'll put a link down to your YouTube channel and to your Spotify account when I put this up, and people can check that out. Now, you mentioned
Likewise.
that the name is just The Podcast, and it's funny because I know
Yes.
I told you that the name of this one would be Talkin Shit, but
It's true.
Van Kosky and I were having a chat today, a little chatty chew. And he doesn't like that name. So we're trying to think of something a little different. And we're gonna have to figure something out here because he likes talking. Well, I don't know if he likes it, but he suggested Talkin Smoke.
I was under the impression that this was a gunpowder game podcast.
And it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. Because our first
Talkin Smoke.
topic for today is gunpowder warfare and the games that depict them. So, a lot of people know of gunpowder warfare from different names: linear warfare, first generation warfare for some people who go by the generation scale. Essentially, what it is the warfare consisting of columns of troops marching at each other, standing in line formation, and firing musket rifles, etc. And we all three of us here kind of got to know one another through these games, specifically one game. And there's a game that Red, you recently banned discussion of from your podcast. It is War of Rights.
It's true. Yeah.
It's hilarious because it's
Alright.
the only thing I would want to talk about on that podcast.
So War of Rights, for those who don't know, is a American Civil War video game. It aims to be a immersive simulation of the war and the tactics there within. It has quite the community. It has a sparkling community. It's hard to talk about War of Rights without talking about that community and how energetic. I'm going to use good words. I'm going to use nice positive words here. Energetic that community is.
Way to put it, yeah.
So, Red, you
Yes.
come from a unit that's actually fairly big, fairly well known. I would say one of the biggest Union units in that game. You come from Ninth Corps, specifically 9th New York within Ninth Corps. Why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of a history rundown of 9th New York?
All right. So the 9th New York was, at least in War of Rights, it was founded by Tyler and Emerson, and I think Fury, maybe Hawkeye was in there, I think, at that point, back in April of 2018. and they formed up after I think the 51st New York or something like that fell apart. And to put a long story short, they were a smaller group for a long time. The thing that made the Ninth New York unique was that Tyler had researched meticulously all the history behind it. So it was probably one of the most historically accurate units in the game, at least from what I knew of it, in terms of like how we organized ourselves and shit. I joined in October of 2018, so a couple months after it started, and I was actually recruited by Ren, which is just funny when you think about his journey in the ninth. And ever since then, I've been in the ninth ever since. I started out as a recruit, went up to private, became an NCO after a few weeks because back then it was popularity contest and I had a microphone. So
Right.
that's all I needed really to get promoted at that time.
I'm
And
sorry.
then after that,
I don't mean to cut you off here. I don't mean to cut you off, but who were you recruited by?
by Ren of the Ninth New York.
Oh, the crowd doesn't like him. The crowd doesn't like that guy. That's weird. I never heard him react that way before. Okay, so this is an interesting topic for me when it comes to like clans within the War of Rights community because, me and Van were in another one. I ran one. It's gone by a lot of fucking names here. It's gone by first. Ooh, Van, should I be swearing on my own YouTube channel?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. We started in First Texas. We were First Texas Company E for a while, and then we switched over to Company L just because I wanted a unit of my own. I wanted a company of my own. Ended up breaking off due to some disagreements with the other First Texas guys. So we made the 69th New York. Oh my God, I said it. Shit.
Stop the podcast.
I gotta stop it already. Yeah.
Get the editing software.
I was thinking of
Oh
Ninth
my
New York.
God.
God damn it. Oh, whatever. I was thinking of Ninth New York. So 69th North Carolina.
Yeah.
From there, we decided we didn't want to be them anymore. So we became First Maryland and decided we didn't want to be them anymore. So we became nothing. And we shut down First Maryland.
No, that was your decision.
Now,
Spectacular fashion.
I wanted to keep going, but I
Yes.
couldn't convince you to not quit.
So we'll get into why I quit War of Rights a little bit later if we really want to, but
I don't want to talk about it.
No, War of Rights is fun though. It was fun for what we had, and
Yeah, I wish I was
like
still
it.
playing it.
But the reason why we're talking about shut up. The reason why we were playing War of Rights, is I think we all come from a background of enjoying the history behind black powder warfare, specifically American Revolution, the Napoleonic Wars, the Franco-Prussian War, the Civil War. And my first question for you, Red, now that we're jumping right into the actual interview process, is what began your interest in black powder warfare?
I've always kind of been interested in it. I've always been kind of a history person. When I was like in middle school, elementary school, I always loved I like the Revolutionary War a lot more because I didn't know the Civil War actually. What it was all about. I thought it was just like some minor thing. And then I got to high school freshman year and I was like, oh, that's crazy. It was actually kind of big. And then I looked up like games, black powder games, and I got, Empire Total War and just kind of went from there. So I guess like high school really got me introduced to it. But then after that, it was just all my own like research and shit into that whole era. I actually got into tabletop wargaming, black powder stuff before I got into the virtual part of it. But yeah, I mean, that's really it. It was just high school that got me into it and the rest was me.
Cool. All right. Same question, Van.
So I actually really didn't think too much about the Civil War before I was playing War of Rights. I was playing Ultimate General at the time, but it was kind of like a strategy game to me, kind of like almost a distraction game. My big game at the time was Rising Storm 2 Vietnam, because I was a huge fan of the Red Orchestra series and the Red Rising Storm series. And I really liked the team play aspect I guess I'd say it's a medium-sized battlefield compared to some of the games that are out now. But I guess the important thing is that it wasn't boring. Like some of these big battlefield games, you spend like a half hour walking around and you just get plinked in the head, you're done. I don't really like that. So the leadership system in those games was you had the team commander and the squad leaders, and they would coordinate with each other to get the fight done. And so War of Rights kind of combined this budding interest I had in the Civil War with the ability to move people around on a pretty large battlefield, coupled with the interesting gameplay aspect of everyone has one shot and they reload in about 20 seconds, and it's one shot, one kill. So it just all kind of came together to create this genre that was really interesting to me.
Right. Yeah. I would have to say the same thing. The thing that draws me to these kinds of games is there's a sense of teamwork that you don't quite get in other games. Call of Duty, Battlefield, those kinds of games, even Halo. It's a lot of lone wolf stuff, you know. And I got my first big pull into like an organized game type setting by playing the original Day of Defeat back when Steam had just first came out. Even before Steam was a thing, actually, it was just Valve games. And I joined a unit called the 29th Infantry Division, and they were a milsim unit, and they're still active today. Actually, I was very interested to find this out. They're still active playing games like Rising Storm 2.
So it's 29th?
Yeah, the 29th Infantry
Division.
Yeah,
they're still around for sure.
Yeah, and they play Hell Let Loose. They play Postscriptum. They play all those games. Well, I got my start there, and let's just say things did not go well for me. I had to go through basic training with them. they had like the whole boot camp. They had a whole boot camp map made. I had to be there at specified times, like Tuesdays and Thursdays, for like a week to get through. And within my first month of being there, I dropped some bad language that they did not like. And mind you, I was 13 years old using these words for the first time, and I thought I was so cool, and I got very upset. Anyways, so going from there, I ended up finding a game again through Half-Life, the Source engine. It was called Battlegrounds 2. And for those guys who don't know, Battlegrounds 2 is an American Revolutionary War mod for the Source engine. And it was there that I found out what line battles were. And ho doggy, I love the idea of two lines facing each other with like maybe a slight deviation in the terrain between them. Because back then, source maps were not that great, especially for Battlegrounds 2. And they would stand in lines and they would fire musket volleys given to them by an order through the officer. And I thought that was just so cool that there's these two big teams of guys. Because back then, a 15-on-15 was a big event, and I just thought it was really cool that these two groups of guys are listening, they're working together, and they're cooperating with each other and to beat the other team. And like the melee back then was way more advanced than War of Rights melee is now. you could jig and you could jive and you could you aim for the head, stab him in the head, it's a one-hit kill. Hit him in the arm, it's not going to do as much damage, like kill him right away. So you had to work together. If you knew your team was worse at melee than the other team, you had to work together to kind of pick off their strongest people, 2-on-1s. And I think that idea of having to work together is what drew me to games later on, like Napoleonic Wars. That was a mod for Mountain Blade Warband. Before that was Mountain Musket. After that, I got into North and South, which, Red, I still owe you a North and South event. I apologize.
Yeah, you never got back to me on that one. You kind of left me hanging there.
I completely forgot about that. We'll have to aim for like next weekend to do that. Maybe we'll make a game night.
Fun. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
I can't make it. I'm drinking a lot next weekend.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. You're
shit.
Drinking.
I'm partying a lot next weekend. I got a new job lined up and everything. I'm gonna go crazy.
Nice.
I can't do next weekend either. Actually, I'm gonna be in Gettysburg and Antietam with the 9th Corps.
Well, shit. Oh. You guys, nope.
I'm in Antietam right now. Look.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Before I get to my next question, then, Red, you guys do a 9th Corps meetup every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do you guys do at these meetups?
Ice. Hold on.
You do ice?
Right.
That's a drug.
I don't know, man. Maybe. Last summer they actually went twice last year. They went over the summer and they went over the fall. There's 2 a year. There's one in the summer, one in the fall. The fall one I think is just Antietam, and that's to celebrate, obviously the anniversary of Antietam. But the one in the summer last year, and I think this year, it's really just everyone gets together. Last year was a little bit, I think, less organized than one that's happening this year, but it was really just everyone gets together, they have food together, drink together, and you just hang out. You just meet up with these people you've called your friends online for however long. You just meet up in real life, and we do battlefield tours. So we walk the entire battlefield like on this huge hike, and then we visit certain monuments. From what I know, what happened last year was generally pretty chill time. They like hung out in the town of Gettysburg last summer. And I think the same thing's gonna happen this year. We are planning on watching that dog shit movie Hampton's Legion one of the nights. Cannot wait to do a movie night. But yeah, generally just hanging out. It's really just chilling and drinking. That's really it.
That actually sounds kind of fun. Myself, I was turned off from these kind of online meetups back in First Texas because First Texas, the original First Texas, Company A, and a couple other guys, they had their own little meetup. And just from the pictures they were posting, they were shooting revolvers down alleyways in the middle of the city and stuff like that. So I just, I'm not going to get involved in that. Now, that is a different First Texas than the one that Sarah's is.
Yeah.
That's a different one. Sarah's runs another First Texas. He runs a better First Texas, in my opinion.
That's the only
Texas
First Texas. Unless you're going to call like 3 idiots First Texas.
Yeah.
Now they got like 20 idiots.
So the original First Texas was formed in North and South. And I remember this because when I played North and South, I had 2 units of my own. I started with the first mounted Cherokee rifles. And when I did a little bit more research into like the South during that war for cavalry, because I started off, I wanted to be a cavalry guy. I wanted to ride horses the whole time. I was stupid. So I decided to make the PRL, which was the Partisan Ranger Legion. And when I had made the Partisan Ranger, I had a fairly good group of guys around me. I had about 12 guys that came to events. And First Texas approached me and they were like, hey, we like the way you guys play. And we like the way that you guys are there for us when we need you for support. Why don't you go ahead and join First Texas? And I joined, and that's what I did. I ended up joining First Texas as their cavalry unit. We made like a little brigade. I was still PRL for a time, but I hung out more with the First Texas guys. So that was ancient history. That's ancient LaBelle history with his first groups that he ran. And they're a bunch of weird people, man. That original First Texas group was weird. Anyways.
And nothing too crazy happens with that Ninth Corps. I think the most they did was go on like little round top at night and got drunk. That was really it.
I think the
I like
coolest thing.
I like the little necklaces you guys wear.
Do we have little necklaces?
What, Van?
What?
I don't know.
Maybe I'll remember what you're talking about. I don't know.
Speaking of Ninth Corps wearing stuff, this is a burning question. This is a burning question, Red.
All right. Is
it true that at these meetups you guys do full Gettysburg reenactments dressed up in your fursuits?
Last summer we had a rampant issue with people coming up in fursuits, and it was such a problem last summer. We had 3 of us come up in full geared out fursuits with muskets and everything. No, absolutely not. Nobody comes in a fursuit, thank God. I think the most was Drake last summer. He came with his mask for COVID was a dragon snout.
Oh boy. Okay.
I think that was it. That was the extent of it. I think that's all I know. I think that was the only notable furry incident that happened last summer. Personally, I don't really care about the furry stuff, man. It's not me. I can care less. I think it's a little weird sometimes, but yeah, I think that was it. And this summer, everyone who's going, for the most part, isn't a furry. So I'm sure we won't have that this time.
I only brought this up because there is a long-standing gag. There's a meme within the War of Rights community that Ninth Corps are a bunch of furries because they do have 1 or 2 spirited members of their group. And I'm not making fun of Ninth Corps. It's just a joke. They don't actually walk around in their fursuits all day and do reenactments. That part was a joke. They are a bunch of weird fuckers, but
it's true. Absolutely true.
Who isn't in that community?
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question, and this is one that I want to dive into cautiously, because it's going to be a little spicy. And I know I promised you guys it wouldn't be this whole podcast wouldn't be as spicy as I normally am, but I'm breaking that rule right away. So my second question for you, Red. We're going to start with Red because I'm interested in hearing Van's opinion after this. but red. Now, there are certain maps in War of Rights that nobody likes to play.
Mm-hmm.
What is your least favorite map? And why is it because you guys always lose on it?
You've got me confused with some other people. I know the people who that's referring to. My least favorite map. It's not because we always lose. It's just I hate maps that I feel like I can't do anything on. You know, if like maps that are like streamlined, you know what I mean? Like just like one approach, or like there's like a meta on that map that like if you don't follow the meta, you lose. I hate that kind of stuff because it just makes it so boring. So I'm going to say most of the maps in the game, except for, actually, no, it's not fair. I don't think it's most of the maps. I think actually, I don't like Nicodemus Hill that much. And that's a map that we actually win quite often now. Nicodemus is annoying because it just logistically it's a nightmare. Having to cross that wide open field or hookers purely because we don't like stamina and cardio in the ninth. So having to run all the way back from spawn is a little annoying.
Right.
And all of the town maps, all the city maps, the Harper's Ferry maps, except for like, Schoolhouse Ridge and the Redoubt map, whatever that's called.
Yeah. Boulevard Heights Redoubt.
Yeah, those two maps are fine. It's just every other Harper's Ferry map I despise because it's just so boring to me. Like it's fun if you want to just throw people into a meat grinder, and like there's a joy in that. There's some fun in that. But like I don't know. I like maneuverability. I like being able to like move my guys somewhere different every time we play,
right.
Or try different strats, which is why I'm excited for Beakoff. But with most of the maps where it's can't really do that, and Harper's Ferry maps in particular, it's impossible because there's like one approach.
I have to agree with you on a lot of those maps require some kind of meta just to get through to things. And if both sides follow the meta, normally it plays out in the way that there is going to be a set winner. It will probably be the attackers, even if the defenders are playing their meta perfectly. Just as the way the tickets work. And you're talking about Harper's Ferry maps. And I maintain my opinion to this day that the Harper's Ferry map set should have never existed in the first place.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about some of the most useless maps and the shittiest map design I have ever seen in an online video game. And let's talk about them right now. That's the Harper Ferry maps. Holy shit, guys. Red, I know you remember, Van, I know you remember, but you and the audience listening, do you guys remember the very first time you loaded up River Crossing as the Confederacy on that map? And you're getting all hyped up. You probably got a great officer telling you guys that you're gonna do great, everything's gonna be awesome, and you go over that pontoon bridge, and the first thing you're met is a fucking volley from across the fucking map. It just wipes out half your line, and the guys who do make it across the bridge get stabbed into oblivion by an entire Union force that hasn't even taken a dent. Oh, I'm sorry, maybe they have, because there was Star Destroyer-esque orbital bombardments from this AI artillery just wiping out everybody, making it no fun. And for some reason, Trusty Jam and Fancy
Sweet
Roll, whatever his name is, they thought that was a good fucking map. And we told them in the beginning, hey, and this is a good story too. I was there for that first map, that first time we played it. And I told the devs, hey, the CSA guys are not having fun. Like this is a horrible map. And Francie Sweet Roll's response was to go into the public chat of the game and say, the CSA is whining. Sounds like they're not having fun. Instead of saying like, maybe we'll have to adjust that. In a reply to the people making talking about it. No, they'd rather go off into public chat and just say, oh, they're not having fun. Maybe they should know how to play. Yeah.
That's annoying.
There's all kinds of terrible Harper's Ferry maps. Graveyard is horrible. Holy shit.
It wasn't so bad until they changed the boundaries on it to make it so you couldn't flank.
Yeah, and I've offered my own suggestions on that too. They should put a capture point right in the middle of the graveyard. And it should be a neutral cap point. No attackers, no defenders on that map. It should just be two teams trying to take over the graveyard. But apparently that's too hard to do on CryEngine. And I don't know. I don't make mods. I don't dev games. But I think that's bullshit. So whatever.
It is. It's a bit bullshit. I've worked the CryEngine a little bit, and it's really not that difficult. It's really not. It's not a huge thing. Then again, maybe there's some back end shit that I don't know with War of Rights. I mean, there's got to be a reason why when they update and add a victory screen, it breaks artillery. I don't know how those two connected whatsoever. I don't know how A and B synced up like that.
Yeah.
But from what I do know of making games and modding and development, it really shouldn't be that hard to move a cap point. But then again, there's probably a lot of back end shit I don't know. So,
I mean, we've all been there. We've all talked about how to fix the meta problem with War of Rights, and I personally think that if they were to add more of I'm only going to use this game as an example because everybody knows how this game plays out. But if they had made some of these maps in more of a battlefield style, where there was multiple capture points that both teams had to fight over, I think that would be great. You could still have your rush style gameplay on certain maps, like what would be a good one? Burnside's Bridge. If you could have that rush style gameplay on Burnside's Bridge, just make it so that the Confederacy has to defend multiple points. Make it so that the Union, they have a chance to get over the bridge, but then they have to hold just on the opposite side of the bridge.
Well, getting over the bridge wasn't the problem for the Union. By the time we stopped playing.
No, but what I'm saying is give the Confederacy a chance to push them back and then retake a point, maybe down by the bridge. Maybe
it wouldn't even matter if the Confederacy pushed them back because the Confederacy's tickets are so whack on that map that the Union, it could be a slaughterhouse for the Union, and the Confederacy would still lose just purely on the ticket balance.
How many times have the three of us here lost maps while out killing the other team 2-1?
Countless times.
It's so many maps that are just like that. I mean, I think the worst offender I can think of is Eastwood Skirmish for the Union. I mean, you have like 5 tickets or something. There's nothing you can do. There's nowhere to go. The point is right there.
Right.
There's no cover. There's no little hill to use. And if you turn it into a slog fest, you're done.
It doesn't work. Yeah, like we played against CSA Second Corps a few months back, and they're
on their server or your server.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks for choosing Zoom. It was on our server, and we were.
Okay, that's.
I know. Good. Yeah, I know. The first thing I think of when you say CSA Second Corps is if you're on their server, it's fucked. I know. For some reason, we just always have connection problems in CSA Second Corps.
I don't know. Crazy.
But we were
on CSA Second. It's almost like the tickets are different on their server or something like that.
It's weird. It's super weird.
It's crazy.
We were on Burnsides and we were playing against the Second Corps Eastwood Skirmish, and dude, it was like one of the events I led after coming back after a while, and we were doing really well. We were out killing them. We were out, every time they charged us, we beat them back. And we actually had them like bottlenecked in the woods for a bit. We were taking few losses. We were just shitting on them, and like one out of line, we dropped down to engaged. And at the end of the match, it was last stand fucked us because we were holding on point with 2 minutes left, breaking, and they were on final push, and then we got the last stand. So all they had to do was kill out of line, and they just have to sit there and just like, I hate that system. That's a whole other topic. Point is, Eastwood Skirmish sucks. We've gotten fucked by it many times. The end casualties on that map alone, it was I think 250 or 200 for Union, which is a lot, but they were all in line, like in formation, and the reps had like 400 or 500 casualties. Not even kidding. It was fucking ridiculous.
That is.
Yeah, nuts. I think that's the thing that Ninth Corps does the best is, there's really no deviation from that line with you guys. It makes you a little slower than most units, but it's something to see when they're all coming at you in a line.
Yeah.
So now that I'm no longer invested in the War of Rights community, I can actually give honest opinions that aren't clouded by me just trying to be an asshole to people. And one of the things that I always appreciated about Ninth Corps was your guys' sense of I don't know if it's a sense of camaraderie or if it's just general cooperation with each other, but you guys were always a very tight-knit group, and I always like seeing that big well-formed blob of men kind of just storming the battlefield. And I think other units did that really well too. I think Paoletti and the 6LA in Second Corps, I think they pioneered the use of blob tactics,
Absolutely.
while also shadow banning and kicking the leadership of the other team. I think that's really, it's another opening though when we think about it into just how busted the meta for War of Rights is. If you have one large blob of men going in the same direction, you couldn't lose.
Technically in line.
Yeah, you couldn't lose for a long time there. It didn't matter what kind of tactics, how much, what kind of cover you had, because the melee is shit. I think we can all three of us agree the melee is shit.
I'm a fan of it.
It could be better. The problem is I don't think there's a single game that has this mid ground between what a citizen soldier would actually be capable of in a melee and I mean, in War of Rights you've got the club and the stab, right? So that's
Yes.
a little too rudimentary. And in the other games, it's just too much. Like there's no way. I can't think of a single person in the Civil War who has a reputation for being like Ajax on the battlefield. I really don't think any single Civil War soldier
holding
should be able
bayonet
to
like this upside down.
Yeah,
Fucking
I can't think of any instance in which like a group of men, like what was it, 82nd Minnesota or something at Gettysburg went like 200 versus 1,000.
Oh yeah,
and you don't,
eighth Minnesota, yeah.
eighth Minnesota, and you don't see them coming out on top because they were better at melee. It's just not a thing.
I'm going to counter you guys with a unit that should be near and dear to Vankovsky's heart here, but he apparently forgets. During the American Revolution, there was a unit at the Battle of Long Island, and it was the 1st Maryland. And 1st Maryland was so Washington's forces. Did I say Long Island? I said Long Island, right?
Yeah.
Washington's forces were retreating. The American forces were in total rout. They were just falling back, and they were going across the river. They were leaving. At the rear guard was the 1st Maryland. 1st Maryland was ordered, you must hold as long as you can. So 1st Maryland about faces, and they face the incoming British and Hessian infantry. And it was 300 men, which sounds a lot like, the Spartans, but it was 300 men holding the ground against over 1,000 redcoats and Hessian infantry. And not only did they hold, but the 1st Maryland decided they did not want to surrender to the British. So they countercharged and forced their way through the British lines and surrendered instead to the Hessians. They took very little casualties. They took far less casualties than you would think of 300 men charging through 1,000 men. So while, yes, we don't have the Achilles out there just breaking through people and chopping down every man that stands in his way, but I think it would be a little bit more realistic if we could at least aim where we want to stab and force people to, maybe if they want to get that one-hit kill, hit him in the head. If they want to get those 2-hit kills, maybe aim for the chest.
There should be a better system with the hitboxes in the game and like the collision boxes as to where, if your stab goes somewhere, it should do a certain bit different damage than if it was to, hit him in the leg or something.
Right.
Because there's no reason why stabbing somebody twice in the foot should kill them. When stabbing them twice in the head, you still have to stab them twice in the face. You know what I mean? I mean, like in real life, obviously there's examples of people getting fucking nailed in the head with artillery and still going. But when you want to balance it out, I don't know, there should be a better system like that where, one hit kill to the head.
There should be like some sort of rudimentary blocking system, but it shouldn't be something that somebody can master to the point of being able to block like 3 people at once while like stabbing another guy.
Yeah. They can back high freedom as well. So
it's just not good.
I asked Red what his we kind of got off topic there, but I asked Red what his favorite map was, and I want to ask Van, what was your least favorite map?
Oh, I mean, Eastwood Skirmish for sure.
Okay.
We've already been over that. If I had to pick another, I don't know. I hated having to play Burnsides as Confederates.
Right. Yep.
Map sucks.
It does. I mean, you would think that Burnsides
Yeah.
would be a lot more fun, but again, this is this is another example of the devs just not seeming to care about what they're doing. But it's well documented.
I didn't really like playing what is it, Pry House on either side.
Oh, fuck Pry House.
with
So boring.
For both sides. I just hated it, and we'd win on it. It would be fine, but like the defenders having to choose which wall to sit on, having to hop the wall constantly, or having to be stuck in the lane, defending both walls, hoping that somebody doesn't decide to like flank down the center, and then you get the little divot that you can throw skirmishers in. It's just so stressful. And
I'm gonna cycle
on the
back to
flip
that
side
map.
of that, attackers you're attacking across open fields the whole time. It just sucks for everyone.
I'm gonna cycle back to that map because there's a moment on that map that I want to share that I thought was one of the greatest moments of all time. But back to Burnsides, it's another example of the devs not really listening or seeming to care about what they're doing, because it's documented that you can go across that river, you can ford that river.
When I first started playing, yeah.
And there was soldiers who were able to cross underneath the bridge, and that's how eventually the Union got across. Can't do that for some reason. There's just this big magical barrier across that river. Says nope, go across the bridge, dumbass. And that's what you're supposed to do. You have to go across that bridge.
It's this forced kill zone, and it's really annoying for the Union. It used to be really annoying. Now we've already, so the Rebs are too afraid to sit on like the bank where they sit in that fence. Because now if they do, just get shit on by Artie, which is great for the Union, but it just makes it more difficult for the Confederacy. And it's just this weird forced mechanic of like forcing this, like, you know, once again, like a kill zone for no good reason.
When that map first came out, you used to be able to go onto the bridge. You used to go to the end of your bridge and sit there and kneel there.
Bottleneck it, right?
And you could bottleneck it. And I think if you wanted now to re-implement that, I think that would be a good way to counter the artillery, at least for a little bit. You just hide on your side of the bridge, because let's face it, the fuses for artillery in this game are dog shit. You can't get the fuse right ever. So they're never going to be able to skip around.
True. We had a couple good gunners who were great at it. This division has it like mastered.
I mean, we had good gunners, but nobody's as good as us. I'm just kidding. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking about it as from a position where I haven't played in a while. Maybe I'm probably wrong, but I just think that would be a good way to. That'd be a good compromise. Anyways, enough of War of Rights. We've talked enough.
Oh, hold on. I want to last thing on War of Rights before we move off of it. The inclusion of artillery, for me at least, almost broke the game, and it's still broken to this day, because there's no way in hell. I mean, maybe there's instances of it historically, but you just wouldn't send about 65 guys after 10 men crewing 2 cannons. You just wouldn't do it. It's not a thing. They didn't send skirmishers unless they were backed up by a heavy line, right? Like if they had 1,000 guys behind them, maybe they'd go take those guns. But the artillery situation is just unbalances the game so much from a like realism standpoint and from a gameplay standpoint.
Well, I'll remind you, gentlemen,
you're playing the artillery meta.
I'll remind you, gentlemen, that War of Rights was originally supposed to have over 200-man servers. We were promised, and the devs will deny it because they deleted it off their website, but we were promised 500 plus maps with historical mode. And not only have they never pushed that through, we did one test for 200-man servers, and that was that. And then now all of a sudden I hear we did one again like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Went well. It was completely fine.
Which is how it was the first time. It's how it was 3 years ago when we first tried
it. Same.
No, it was not. It was not fine.
It was buggy.
You have a good computer, LaBelle. It was not fine for anybody with mediocre hardware.
I suppose. Get a better computer. Anyways, so
you can't market a game for hundreds of people and only like sell it to 100 people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not enough people with high-end rigs for that.
I mean, they
promised CryEngine. Shouldn't have made it with CryEngine.
That's true. All right.
Shouldn't have made it with CryEngine.
So moving on. Let's move on to our next game topic here, because this is a game that I think two of us are excited for. The third, maybe not so much. This is Van. He's just staring. Battlecry Freedom. All right. So yeah, I know Van's not happy about it. So Battlecry Freedom is being made by Flying Squirrel Entertainment. These are a group of guys who worked on the original Napoleonic Wars mod for Mountain Blade Warband. Now, Battlecry Freedom has been in development for give or take about 8 to 9 years, but it would be unfair to say that they've been working on the same version that whole time. I understand that at some point in the middle of development, they decided to scrap what they had and start over. And I think there was also some personal issues that they stopped working on it for a while as well. But now they're back in full force. They're getting things going. Me personally, I've been involved in a couple of their testing phases. And just from my own opinion, I got to say that I enjoy what I see. I like it. It and War of Rights are two very different beasts. So for anybody who's going to listen to me and say, War of Rights is better or Battlecry of Freedom is better, I think that's arguing in bad faith. They are two very different beasts. They play very differently. They're marketed to very different people. But as a Civil War fan, I enjoy what I see. Now, Red, I have learned recently that good old Ninth New York is thinking of playing some Battlecry of Freedom. Is that true?
It's not even thinking. It's confirmed. We've had a forum post on FSE. I made the forum post, I think, back in February or some shit like that. Yeah, I've been planning on going to BCOF ever since I saw gameplay.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, we are definitely going to be in BCOF.
Excellent. Sweet. So Vankowski, you know how I feel about Battlecry of Freedom, and I know how you feel about Battlecry of Freedom. So to counter Red's excitement here, and this is part of the reason why I wanted you on, to counter Red's excitement, I want to hear from you your honest thoughts on Battlecry of Freedom.
It's a cool game. It's definitely not like my primary interest, which is, purely first person, large battlefield. I mean, I guess the battlefields are like large considering the scale.
Yeah.
But it's just weird. I don't know how to describe it. Like, it definitely almost feels dated already because they decided to pursue the North and South Mountain Blade style of gameplay.
Right, and they're using Unity engine too.
Yeah, well, I don't have a problem with Unity. I think War of Rights should have done Unity.
Great.
But
no, I'm not disparaging Unity or their choice to use it. I'm just saying that the Unity engine itself, it takes a lot to make a game look great.
Yeah,
and
well,
they're
it'll be
choosing,
good for scaling.
Yeah, and that's what they're choosing decent enough looking visuals in order to allow vast number of players.
Something War of Rights should have done.
They could have gone with Unreal. That's what I'm not going to talk about.
That was the most confusing thing to me is why didn't they do Unreal?
I thought
Unreal looks beautiful and
it's
an amazing engine. Engine.
Very versatile, low intensity.
My own personal worries for Battlecry of Freedom is that the gameplay is a little too fast for how the Civil War, coming from War of Rights, which is more of a simulation than it is a video game. Everything is very deliberate. You feel when you shoot. You feel when a cannonball goes by your head. You can hear the enemy coming from a certain flank. Battlecry of Freedom, not so much. It would be a disservice to say that Battlecry of Freedom is more arcadey than anything. But I would say that if you're going to use that word, I wouldn't disagree with you. Now, I was there for a test for Battlecry of Freedom where we had upwards of about 85 versus 85, which is 10 more than War of Rights can do for each side. It was fantastic. I gotta say, seeing the cannonballs exploding midair and raining shrapnel down, and everything's very stylized. If you guys probably noticed that as well in Battlecry of Freedom, everything's a lot more stylized. So when a cannonball bursts in the air, you see these long finger-like tendrils of flame just kind of scorch the earth underneath it, and you see projectiles bouncing, and there's a whole trajectory system, ballistics and simulation for Battlecry Freedom, and it all looks very, very fun. But do you guys think that Battlecry Freedom will emulate the success of NW and the Mountain Blade Warband mods? Red, I'll start with you first.
Yeah, I think it will, because it's really just an upgraded version. People can disagree, but it is purely an upgraded version of North and South. That's all it is. It's North and South like 2.0. When it comes to visuals, it's increased. It's better. The visuals never really bothered me with games, but when you're going for immersion, it matters. Obviously. But yeah, it's really just North and South 2.0. It has a lot of the same gameplay mechanics. It's better in the terms of inventory system. It's a lot cleaner. It's obviously its own game, so it's a lot more put together, which is great. But I think it will work like Hold Fast in North and South because it's faster paced. It is more arcadey. It is more of a casual game rather than the immersion, real gritty Civil War game that people who play War of Rights, at least for one, are looking for. And that's why a lot of people aren't going to transfer over, is because it doesn't give you that same feeling of like, dude, this war sucked. You know what I mean? It's more of like it's a lot of fun. More, in War of Rights, we have PTSD memes all the time because like they're shit in game, where like you're in a line and like you get hit by a cannon, like half your line gets disintegrated into dust. It's like, holy shit.
Your screen turns black and white and you can't,
yeah,
sounds are all muffled. Oh yeah.
You're suppressed as fuck. But in Battlecry Freedom, it's like artillery hits, dudes explode, and it's just like, you just keep fucking going.
It's a shower of blood. Yeah, it's a shower of blood, but you're okay.
The colors are too bright.
I would agree. I would agree with that. Van, same question.
Well, I think that North and South back in the day, or I guess Napoleonic Wars, benefited from being attached to the Mountain Blade brand, which is already immensely popular in multiple gaming communities back in its time. Not just, war simulation types, but pretty much everyone loved the hell out of that game. I think Battle Cry of Freedom will be successful to a degree. I don't see it being as popular as Napoleonic Wars back in the day. I think it'll have its own community, but I just don't see how it can grab the market, especially considering that Holdfast is already out and pretty much does what Battle Cry of Freedom wants to do, but in a more casual, accessible way. I mean, these events that we've been playing, you pretty much need like literally the dev there running it, because let's face it, the people who are playing the game right now are kids, and as soon as they get a little bit of admin power, they run away with it. So I don't know, the community as it exists already, I think, is going to turn people off of it that are trying it out for the first time, especially if what I think is going to happen happens, where people want to play on private servers because of voice IP, but the kids that inhabit the communities that exist currently have admin commands on their server. They're going to turn a lot of gamer adults off, so to speak. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for Battle Cry of Freedom. I don't want it to fail because I want these games to become more popular so I can maybe get the game that I want to play eventually.
Yeah.
But I just am not as optimistic as you guys about it.
Well, you know what? You're far more optimistic now than you used to be, because back in the day when I would mention Battle Cry of Freedom, you would sneer at me and call me all kinds of names.
Well,
idiot.
Because we had a fucking community to run, and you're like, oh, I hope this game dies so we can play this other game. And it's like, you idiot. These people that you've recruited for this game don't want to play another game. Like, what do you not get about that? But here we are, no community. So I guess it's time to start on the new one.
You know what? I was going to avoid the whole what happened to First Maryland topic, but I guess we'll go into it now since we got time. So, look, I put a lot of money in time into building 69th North Carolina and First Maryland. And at our height, that Discord had just over 700 members in it. And I did a great big purge to get rid of a bunch of inactives or people who were assumed to be inactive because they hadn't shown up in months. Did that purge and we brought our numbers back down to around 400 within the Discord. And this was around a time when there was a lot of, there's no news for War of Rights. Nothing new was coming out. The devs were combative. People in the community were just being shitheads. Shout out to Clink and Collector. People were actively ruining other people's time and kind of wasting their time within that community. And the game was boring for me. I'll maintain that the War of Rights being boring was the driving goal for me to kind of scale back my involvement. So I scaled back my involvement and I gave the War of Rights First Maryland stuff to a good guy named RJ. He's a young lad. He's younger and he didn't have a whole lot of experience leading, but he was charismatic. He liked to talk. And it's always been my philosophy that the leader, the top guy in any kind of like regiment or clan based on a regiment, should A, like to talk, B, talk a lot, C, be very charismatic, and D, be semi-competent at the game. RJ was the first two. And it's not to say RJ was disliked, but because he wasn't disliked, we all love our RJ. He's still with us. But there was a lot of other, I call them glory hounds. There's a lot of other glory hounds within that community. Guys who valued their rank, their little E rank, more than they valued the actual success of the unit as a whole. Shout out to Wilbert. So when we came to these kinds of like egos that cared more about themselves than the unit, it was an impossible situation for RJ. RJ to this day has a better win-loss record than I do. He's like 12-0 for how many events they did with him in command. And you gotta hand it to him. The kid knew what he was doing.
Well, he also picked easy events. I mean, if that record still existed, he was going up against groups like teams of 4 units, which, I mean, let's be realistic. In War of Rights, the map meta matters and the ticket scale matters.
Right.
But also what's super important is if you put one unit of like 60 to 75 against 4 units of 15 to 20 that aren't coordinating, it's gonna be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
So, RJ comes in and he's doing well, but I had purposefully created kind of a cult of personality within 69th North Carolina and First Maryland. And that personality was LaBelle knows what he's doing, trust LaBelle. And the unfortunate side effect of this was LaBelle is gone, who do we trust? And a couple of the kids there decided that it wouldn't be RJ. And so attendance died. It literally died almost overnight with RJ in command. And we went from having at our peak 70 guys to an event to just over 40 to an event when I was in command, to when RJ was in command his first week 35, and then after that 12, 15.
Well, it wasn't just the kids either, because I was fielding messages from adults, and I retired with you because I didn't want to have to fucking do any of that without you. I knew better. I knew like I wasn't you, and that it was going to be a fucking pain in the ass to get everyone's respect or whatever. But there was a maturity issue. We had a lot of adults, and suddenly this kid's in charge, and he's catering to kids. And I love RJ, but a lot of adults weren't there for that.
Right. So that all happens, and I come back and I'm like, hey, okay, shit's not working. You guys are falling apart. I'm going to come back. I'm going to retake command. And the reason why I did this is because at the time I thought that community was still, I guess saying worth saving is kind of harsh, but that's how I felt at the time. I felt our community is worth saving. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to make sure we don't die. But after I came back, within the first week, I was already dealing with the same troublemakers making the same trouble. And that was glory hounds causing all kinds of drama to happen in a Discord. And for a Discord of 400 people, there's no reason why I should be being woken up by a text in the middle of the night, 2:00 in the morning, because someone called me a bad name. It's just, and some of these guys were grown ass adults, So
I'll just never understand why you weren't kicking and banning people. That was always the confusing thing to me.
I did that for a long time. You were there for that, Van, when I would ban people for just being annoying. And I softened up after that because I was getting advice from guys like you and from other guys that were in positions of relative power and authority within that group, that maybe I should be a little bit softer on some of these guys, because at one point we were bringing in 10 active people, I should say, because we were bringing in, like, you'd bring in 30 people, you'd get maybe 5 who were active. And at one point we were bringing in 10 actives, and we were losing 9 of them just because I didn't like the way they talked. And there was a group of people who thought that, okay, we're losing a lot of potential recruits because you don't like that this guy thinks Trump's a great president, so you banned him. And that's a true story. I've done that a couple of times. But it was run differently. It was run more of like it was a social club, it was a gentleman's club. And then when we decided to become a community, it was a little bit bigger. So I come back and I decide it's not worth saving. And the final parting shot, the killing shot, the death blow for LaBelle's First Maryland was the day that I was sitting there minding my own business, just kind of chilling out, playing video games. And I get a DM from Grail. Now, Grail, Red. You've seen Grail around.
Yeah. I played Tarkov with him.
Yeah. I get a DM from Grail. And it was in the form of a question. And it said, LaBelle, will you transfer server ownership to me? But in the context of what he had told me that previous night, because that previous night he had told me, kind of in, I don't know, he didn't maybe mean to do this, but I kind of saw it in his inflection, kind of, the context clues, that's what I'm looking for. Those context clues. He thought that that First Maryland was going to be passed to him and that I would just be pushed to the side.
Interesting.
And when he messaged me, he was like, hey, transfer server ownership to me. And this is something that, this is where my actual ego does come into play, because my ego did take over here. I thought to myself, this motherfucker is asking for something that I'm still paying bills. I was still paying the server bills. Yes, I was taking donations, but on the months that people didn't donate, I still paid out of my pocket. And those servers cost $120 a month.
Yeah.
I was paying for that. I was paying for almost every single server boost on the Discord. And he wants me to transfer it to him, but he also wants me to keep paying for all these things. And I said, nope, this is enough. All these people who just want power, it's ruined my fun. And I deleted the server. I did a nuclear launch code styled live stream, and I deleted that server. I had 15, 16 people watching me type in the commands to delete that Discord server. That was fun. But
I told you the entire time we were playing, if you retired, then I was gonna retire because I wouldn't want to do it anymore.
Right.
You should have been suspicious of the people who were like, "Oh yeah, I'll take it for you. I'll do that for you." I don't know.
Well, I was suspicious of them, and that's partly why we led to where we led to with deleting the server as soon as Grail asked for it. Because you know already that Grail was a pretty unpopular person with the rest of the higher ups, because he was an ass kiss, and he was a very blatant ass kiss. You know what I mean?
I didn't really have a problem with him until he started trying to fucking turn people against me.
Yeah, well, he was whatever. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but he was sneaky. Yeah. So I said no ways it's going into his hands. And if I had said no to him, it would have been worse, in my opinion. But beyond that, let's see. We're coming up on 10 minutes left in our first ever Talkin whatever podcast. And I want to end with another question for Red. And I've spent a little bit of time while we were talking here kind of thinking about how I was going to phrase this question, Red. But I want you to know that by me asking this, I in no way mean to cause a ruckus with you or Ninth Corps.
Okay.
Was there ever a time where you considered the option of doing your own thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
How did that play out? What led to that, and how did that play out?
Well, I don't think it's any secret I've disagreed with a lot of things Ninth Corps has done in the past or recently. A lot of people have pissed me off on more than one occasion in that community. I'm not going to name any names.
Right.
But, there's a lot of people who are annoying, are just annoying.
Right.
Who join and think they have the whole game mapped out within 2 weeks of them starting to play. And I respect the grind. I respect, wanting to lead. But when, there's certain people that are making decisions that they have no right to make, or people who, I don't know, who leave the game, but still retain positions of command and authority, and who still make decisions, even though they don't play anymore, decisions that will only impact the people who play. It's frustrating. Or
That's why we
when,
left First Texas.
I get that. I mean, the 51st, they've been in similar situations before where they've, been pissed. Because there's, for a long time, there was a disconnect between HQ and the 9th New York, or HQ and the regiments that make up 9th Corps.
Right.
So, especially in the past, I will name a name for this one, Descartes. I don't hate you, Descartes. I really don't. I don't know why you hate me. I think it's because I'm better at war rights than you, which is sad.
That's true. That's 100% true.
I met you in war. I met you in real life. I met Descartes in real life. He went to I worked at Dunkin' Donuts for a while, and he saw me at Dunkin' Donuts. I made him a coffee, and that was cool. And then shortly after that, we became rivals or enemies. I don't even know what we are anymore. But he was a person that, made me really consider just splitting off and making my own thing, because he was kind of a head honcho in the 9th New York for a bit. And oh my God, I was a company commander, right? C company. And I went in this recruiting spree, 50 dudes in 3 days, 50 dudes in 2 days, actually. Or no. Yeah, I recruited 50 guys all on July 4th of 2019 or 2020. 50 guys in a single day. And this is before we had any pipeline for recruits. So they all went into C company, and people were mad at that, which annoyed me because, if you want recruits, recruit, right? But what really got me pissed at that time was Descartes punished C company and me for not only having more people in the other companies. We were punished because when we would do company v companies in the 9th, we would always win. And not even because of numbers. I'd have to donate C company guys to the other team. And the idea was junior leadership, right? Like NCOs leading shit. Except whenever I would ask my NCOs to lead, they'd say, no, we want you to lead. So I'd say, okay. So I would lead and we'd win these company v companies. And one day Descartes came in, got his shit kicked in, and he got mad and banned company v companies from ever happening again. And so we didn't do them for a fucking year. And then he wanted me demoted because I was leading. And I've never cared about the virtual rank. That's why when people are like, are you mad that Drake, for example, is an HQ and you're not? No, I don't care, because a variety of reasons, but
it's an inexplicable decision.
Generally, it doesn't really matter to me. Because that's it.
You bring up those kind of same challenges that I think every corps or brigade or whatever the hell they call themselves kind of faces, where you have HQ and then you have the guys underneath who have their own set of issues, and they obviously, everyone's human, they all have their own set of thoughts and that kind of stuff. And I think it's a testament to 9th Corps that you guys have had these kinds of trials and tribulations, but yet you've maintained one of the, if not the largest group in War of Rights. And I think that's something to be commended. And I think it's because of guys like you. I think it's because of guys like Emerson that have held, that glue together and have done everything you can. Now, I will say, based on my own interactions with certain groups and certain people, I'm going to say in 9th Corps, I'm not gonna name any names, but guys like Descartes who haven't, I guess,
relevant.
they haven't liked me for one reason or another.
Deckhart was a huge dick to us back when we were getting started.
Yes, he was.
A massive jerk.
Not a nice guy, but
Yeah.
I like to think people can change, so I'm not going to dog on him too much. But speaking of people who can't change, we had our own trials and tribulations with a certain group. Let's go. Let's call them Second Corps. Let's call them Union Second Corps. Just a completely completely made up organization. We'll call them Union Second Corps. I think you guys are going to know who I'm talking about. It was kind of the same thing where people. Let's go with a completely fake made up name. Guys like I don't know. Let's call him ZC Walker.
Gatherer.
Let's call him ZC Walker. And guys like that who used really kind of like creepy and very bad stuff that was happening in the community to their own benefit. And when you're dealing with egos like that and people like that, I think you've done a tremendous job in keeping Ninth Corps free from that kind of stuff. And when you did have that one recent thing that happened, you guys took very swift action and you stopped it and you got rid of it. And the whole reason why I bring up this whole why did you ever feel like you wanted to do your own thing is because honestly, Red, I think you guys just have this crazy ability to keep everybody together. And it's always been very curious in my mind. I wonder if they have ever had the same kind of issues that I had, where I had people that wanted to break off and do their own thing. So it's kind of,
we should have let those fuckers just go.
It's heartening to hear that you guys has your own issues like that, but you were able to keep it together. You guys did a good job, and so I commend you for that.
I mean, the secret really is just, I like most of the people in there. I mean, I'm friends with a lot of these guys, and I think that goes for anyone who's really wanted to split, except for Deckhart. He split, and King Bob too. He split too. But the big thing is, the people who have wanted to split, except for Deckhart, did so in a nice way. It's never been toxic like a lot of the groups that I've seen split, where it's like very angry. You know what I mean? It's like fuck you, I'm leaving. It's like with King Bob, it was just I want to do my own thing, and that was it. And we were like, sure, go for it.
I don't know who King Bob is. Sorry.
He runs no, it's fine. 32nd Ohio. He created that little group, and they're a small group now.
Okay.
And they've been a small group, and it's we've always been respectful about it. If you want to leave, you're more than welcome to.
Right.
If you want to split, go for it. Just don't be a dick. And I think we've done a good job at maintaining the friendships that we have, because we like to really just emphasize that we are a community, and outside of War of Rights, we're all friends, and War of Rights stuff is very separate from that.
Right. Well, that's good to hear. So the last question before we go ahead and call this the end of the first podcast, which I hope is going to be a mild success. When I look back on this years later, I hope this is the start of something good. I hope I did a good job. But last question before we go. I want to end every podcast with something a little off topic and a little fun. So I'm going to, we just had this talk yesterday about Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and all of our nerdy obsessions. So Red, what is your nerdy obsession?
My nerdy obsession.
Yes. It can't be anything but Black Powder Warfare.
All right. See, that's the thing. It used to be Star Wars, but I've grown apart from Star Wars for the past couple of years because of the new trilogy.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
But I mean, the only other thing I would say is probably Star Wars, or like just history in general. I'd say Star Wars, like nerdy shit. I'd say Star Wars, I guess.
Okay.
But I mean, if I'm being honest with myself, probably just anything history related.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Red, in your best Jar Jar Binks voice, I want you to plug your podcast. Let us know when we can find new episodes, and let us know where at.
So I'm not going to do Jar Jar Binks boy. I'm not going to trust myself to do that. I will say that the podcast is on Spotify, and the newest episode of the podcast, episode 8, one that Mr. LaBelle here is indeed on, is going to be up today at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard. And that's all found on my YouTube channel at RedFXD. Made it a while ago, so the name. And yeah, that's where you'll find my stuff. And join Ninth Corps if you'd want. Don't feel pressured to. But if you want to join my cult in the Ninth New York, go for it. It's a fun time.
And I'll put a link down there to the Ninth Corps and Ninth New York Discords. Van, what is your one nerdy obsession? I think I kind of know where you're going to go with this, but what is your one nerdy obsession?
Oh man, I'm just obsessed with park design, like theme parks and park builders, and I'm really excited for the Operation Genesis game. Or not Operation Genesis.
that is a take. That is an old take.
Jurassic World Evolution 2. That's what I've been really excited for. I wish that company, because they also make Planet Coaster, I wish they would do a Planet Coaster 2 sometime soon. But I just really big theme park nerd.
How would you feel if they did a Planet Coaster Jurassic World remix?
It'd be fine because I don't have to put the dinosaurs in,
Yep.
I like designing the coasters and making.
Nobody wants to ride the Beastie at Kings Island and have their head ripped off by a T-Rex in a pen next to them, right? So, all right. So in your best,
I'm not doing a voice.
I'm best Ian Goldblum voice. Go ahead and plug. Do you have anything to plug, Van?
I don't have anything to plug.
You have nothing to. Just do your best.
The only thing I have to say is, Red, you're the best Ninth Corps leader. You were the only one I was ever afraid of fighting. Every time we fought against Ninth Corps, I'd look at the thing and be like, "Oh shit, Red's there."
Oh, that gets a big crowd cheer.
I'm surprised. Yeah. I'm surprised they don't have you in charge of the whole damn thing, or at least field leading. But there it is.
Yeah, I mean,
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Can you guys believe that all this time we've known Red, he's stayed like the same rank? Yeah.
It's stupid.
I agree.
It's stupid.
I agree. 100%.
The only one that scares me.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
That's not even us kissing your ass, Red. There was times where we would be loading up an event and we would see certain people and be like, "Oh fuck." And you were one of them.
Same for you guys. Every time we played against First Maryland in general, I'd be like, "Oh, we're gonna have a fun one." I'd hype the guys up and be like, "Oh, we're gonna die a lot tonight, boys. It's gonna be a fun time."
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
We appreciate those kind words, because for a long time there, Van, myself, and the rest of the higher ups were like, "Oh, everyone hates us."
No. There are people who do, but it wasn't us. No,
I don't know if it was hate, more so like doesn't want to fight.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another
just
topic.
didn't want to touch you guys.
Yeah, I think it's another topic for another time. Talking about our own personal, whatever. All right, so
Drax.
Hey, thank you, everybody.
I'm calling you out.
Oh shit! Get Drax on here next week. I wanna thank everybody for listening today. I want to thank our guests, Red. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate that. I used you for clout, and thank you for letting me use you for clout.
Absolutely.
Vankovsky, thank you as well for coming on, being my Jamie. We're gonna have you a more functioning Jamie next time and have you pulling some stuff up, because I got some big plans going on for the podcast. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for watching our first episode. I'm not sure what the hell I'm calling this podcast yet. Maybe I'll just put a placeholder in when I bring it up. But if you guys ever want to show up, be a guest, you can join us at my Discord link. It is down below. It'll be just under Red's Discord links. Make sure you sign up, join that Discord, and let me know. Let me know what kind of topics you want to have, what you want to talk about, and why I should have you on the show. Other than that, thank you guys for listening. I am LaBelle. This was Red and Van, and you guys have yourselves a great. Wow, live long and prosper. That is awesome. You guys have a great day.